What's going on, Bolt fams? Smile. Mike and I are here to have this pep rally on the Nuts and Bolts channel here, and I just would like to say that officially at 4:25 Pacific Standard Time on Sunday, the Vic Fangio coaching tree was officially chopped to the ground. Burned, firewood, delete.
Yeah, very unfortunate results last week's game, everybody. But we are going to be here, win or loss, rain or shine, no matter what the injury report looks like or what's going on. Giving you guys our Chargers talk all year long. So make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. Anyways, if you're a Chargers fan, everyone should take a deep breath. It's only one game. It's only one game, and there's a lot of positive from that game, Tony. It wasn't all negative just because we lost.
Yeah, I honestly I don't understand some of the conversations surrounding the game. Because there's just a lot of people acting like it's week 16 or 17 and this happened and not week 1 where you ran into a nightmare matchup in week 1. Like you're going to get to see somebody that we all agreed upon as being a very great play designer was going to get a chance to seek his revenge against the team that made his offense look pedestrian. With backups, by the way. Like there was just massive injuries in that game against the Dolphins in 2022. So it was bad. One of the things that I talked about was like the halftime adjustment. And what I've gathered is that Staley actually took the game plan for Tennessee and deployed it against the fastest wide receiver core in NFL history. So this is the week we should be playing a bunch of man coverage and trying to stack the box against the run, I guess. But it's like at halftime, the adjustment was almost to see if you could leave Tyreek Hill in more advantageous situations. So I was like, this is a really bold choice right here.
Yeah, and it was really tough to watch. Me and Tony watched the game back every week the next few days following on the All 22 film from NFL Plus. And it's just painful seeing the same defense break the huddle and walk to the line of scrimmage that keeps getting cooked over and over with no adjustments or anything being changed. It's like we got cooked the last 25 plays, so let's see what happens on play 26. I mean, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, the other thing that I think has not really been talked about as much is the secondary was actually they were making some plays every now and then, right? Like they were getting it to 3rd and 7s and 3rd and longer sometime. But at some point there was zero pressure on Tua the entire game. And everybody keeps going, well, he's getting the ball out too fast or whatever. If that's the case, then why wasn't everybody jumping like it was like a 90s hip hop concert? Hooray! Oh, like we should have seen hands in the air, at least trying to do something to distract him. Yeah. And it was like there was no interference, and Tua played a phenomenal game, right? Like it was crazy because everybody keeps focusing on what Tyreek Hill did. It wasn't just him. He had half the yards. Braxton Berrios and Smythe and River Craycraft and Angled, a full blocking fullback, was making, 15-yard, 16, 19-yard game plays. So it's like I look at all of it and it's extremely frustrating on that side of the ball. But like you said, I left extremely encouraged about what I saw offensively in the game.
Yeah, the offense looked phenomenal. And I think that was Tua's best throw of his career so far. That step up into the pocket, kind of threw it while moving forward towards the line of scrimmage and just dropped that dime to Tyreek Hill in between the safety and over the corner's head. It really was impressive what Tua did, man. And you see what he can do fully healthy. And that's been the problem in his career is he hasn't been able to stay fully healthy. And the key to slowing him down is to get pressure in his face because he needs a long windup. He needs a step. His feet need to be planted on the ground because he doesn't have the arm talent of some of the other quarterbacks in the NFL. And like you said, Tony, we didn't do much to disrupt that. But hey, we'll stop talking about the last one and we'll move on to the next one here. Jordan's in the chat.
Let's talk about how much fun it was to watch the run. Like the Chargers running the football was it was great. There was even instances where I wish that they would have stuck with that more. That 3rd and 1, don't go empty in that situation. Like, especially when it's so effective, you end up getting the sack. That was a nice blitz call there. Herbert does a great job to avoid getting a safety. And then also like down 3rd and 5 for a touchdown that could have put him up 8 points with an extra point, or maybe you go for 2 and try to make it a 2-point game, which is what I believe would have been the case. Why? I get that we just gave Herbert $252 million, but let's just smash forward again, and now maybe the ball is on like the 1-yard line, 2-yard line, then you're like, well, let's do it here. And then we could still have the ability of like a play action boot rollout situation, get Herbert on the move, the run. I just didn't love from the 5-yard line, whatever it was, 3rd and goal from the 5 or 6 or whatever. I didn't love it.
Yeah, and you'd expect to see when the rushing attack is so prevalent and dominating the way it was, to see a lot more of those play actions and those plays where we see Herbert, keep the ball on a fake handoff and move that pocket all the way to the right or all the way to the left. So that way he has time to attack the entirety of the field. That's really what and I'm hoping that Kellen Moore, learns the lesson. Teams are going to draw up their most creative blitz when the game's on the line. Teams are going to draw up their most creative defensive play that they practice that week when the game's on the line. If Herbert, gets one of those deep rollouts where he almost moves the pocket with him as he goes to the, the right side of the field or the left side of the field, it buys him time to where he can attack it, all weapons that are available. And in the crunch time, that would have probably been very beneficial for Herbert there, especially on that last drive. If he just got that deep, that 10-step, drop that they were using with them last year.
Yeah. To me, it was like, they talked about the run game nonstop. Josh Kelly was my breakout X Factor player, whatever we call it on the show at the end of the game. Was like, I really thought Josh Kelly was going to be somebody who was bringing the game home in the 4th quarter, but he didn't even wait to get his party started. It was like all 4 quarters. Every time he touched the ball, he looked fantastic. I was excited for him. The offensive line worked really well together in a brand new scheme, which is exciting to see because we're going to talk about it. They're going to really need to have that A game against the Titans front. So like, it just so much to be excited about. And even in the pass game, although the shots weren't deep, like they were playing too high every time. The whole time we were on all 22. Those safeties were like 25 yards down the field. Like you really would have needed Randy Moss to try and test that in some way. Calvin Johnson, that player.
Yeah. And there was a few chances there where Herbert was kind of keying in on a target and just the pass rush gets there just a second too soon, or the receiver breaks and gets the separation just a second too late. Like there were like maybe 5-10 close calls to where Herbert would have had a chance to sling that thing deep. I think there was one play where we saw where Quentin Johnson did like a deep over route. And it's like, man, he came free just as Herbert, let go of the ball to another target. And he would have been open down the field. So maybe we'll get some more of that this week. Jordan's in the chat here, ready to go through the 5 stages of depression already. It's one game, Jordan. We're not going into depression yet. The Chargers are still winning 11, 12 games. Don't worry, buddy.
I think Jordan is a Giants fan, is he not?
Well, he may actually want to consider depression. He actually start looking at the stages. The 40-0 wipe that the Giants got against the Cowboys last week. Kathy's saying Kathy's not happy about the performance. Trading Chase. No, don't trade Chase, bro. But this isn't a fantasy show. We have to come to another show, Jordan.
Not a fantasy show, but trading Chase is bad in any format of any sports talk show. Don't trade Chase.
Anyways, on to this week, Tony. The Chargers are going to Tennessee for their first road game of the season to play the Titans. I got us with the weather report here. Our third co-host, David, had to call in sick today. We miss you, David, but I'm going to give the weather report for you. It's 81 and sunny in Tennessee also. So same weather report as last week in LA. We're getting in Tennessee. That's going to be kind of the running joke on this show that every weekend we do the weather report in California. It's going to be the same. So there you go. Even in Tennessee, we got the same weather report as we do in LA, Tony.
Don't talk about the joke. Just deliver the joke. They'll decide whether or not it's a joke. Okay.
Well, I don't have the comedic experience like you, so not in on this.
All right.
But from weather report to injury report, and this is where things get a little bit more cloudy.
Yeah. There you go. Good transition. Excellent work. That's in the business.
Joey Bosa is dealing with a hamstring. He's questionable, but it's not looking good, y'all. He did not put together a full practice this week. He put one limited practice, and based off of the tweets from Popper and Fernando Ramirez and the other Chargers insiders, it didn't seem like that limited practice was like a trending towards playing limited practice. It seemed like a rehabilitation limited practice. Austin Eckler is listed as doubtful with an ankle. We know how ankles are. They take weeks. So, I mean, when I heard that he had sprained his ankle bad enough to even, get on the injury report to come out of the game last week, immediately I go, that's probably going to take 2 or 3 weeks at very minimum if it's a sprain. And I don't think we're going to see Eckler out there. So it's going to be Josh Kelly's show. And Tony, are we put him in our flexes? Austin Eckler said, put Kelly in your lineups this week.
Yeah. He's a good teammate and friend. I'm starting him in 2 leagues, I believe.
Okay.
But yeah. I don't love it against the Titans.
Yeah, they do have a very good front. The rookie linebacker, Diane Henley, had a hamstring last week. He's doubtful this week as well, but he did practice twice, so 2 limited practices, getting closer to getting back on the field. Hamstrings are the worst. Eric Kendricks is a non-related injury and hamstring is the list here, but he's not playing probably. He did not practice all week either. Chris Rumpf, he had limited practices all week, doubtful with him as well with the hammy, which is, I believe, Joey Bosa's backup. We're going to see some Thule this week. I'll tell you that much. Hopefully, he could fill in for Bosa and give us some juice off the edge. Tony, what's the most concerning injury? Is it Eckler? Is it Bosa? Is it Kendricks, who's going to be the guy that was supposed to be going head up with Derrick Henry over and over again? Who on this injury report hurts you the most?
I think it's a combo of the fact that there was miscommunication with the green dot and Kendricks only, getting his second game rep at doing that. And also it will be really nice to have him to be tackling Derrick Henry. But I think also more so is the fact that we loved the edge line depth, but now it's like Thule's thrust into being a starter and Rumpf is gone. So it's like that part to me is where you really start to be like, oh, 2 positions we felt great about for potential run game and pressures and stuff like that. They now become points where it's a little bit weaker because then we're going to be, relying on and cheering on a lot more tackling from our secondary.
Which has not been a good trend for us lately. But hey, Tony, I'm calling right now. Hello, is this the Kyle Van Noy residence? I mean, we might need to do something. There's some veteran edge rushers out there. If Bosa's going to miss more than just this week, I trust Thule to put in work. I just don't want to see him out there in his second game and Derrick Henry's coming downhill at him, man. This is going to be interesting to see how the rookie handles it.
I want to see it. Bring it all right there. Thule. Big.
And then, as far as the Austin Eckler injury goes here, what are you thinking here? I'm thinking because of the trends that have been happening and because we're never going to see Isaiah Spiller on the field probably, I'm thinking it's going to be the Kelly and Dotson show this week.
I'll expound on that later as far as what I think is going to happen in the backfield. But I think if I'm Austin Eckler right now and I have an ankle injury and I have these incentives built into my contract and the team has not given me necessarily a reason to be fighting through this stuff long term. He's also, I don't think he's like this, but there's got to be a little bit of what's the risk of me playing through this ankle injury? Do we have a situation where it could lead to, ACL, what's the severity of it before I get back? So I do think it could be maybe the Raiders game before the bye week, depending on the severity of it. This is what happens when I start to wonder about if I'm a professional and my livelihood and my opportunity to go into and negotiate where I'm at, I would rather put 10 to 12 great games on film than struggle against the Titans front with an
Yeah.
ankle injury. Like that would
Yeah.
just not be good tape that you want to be like, oh yeah, because they don't care. Like the people evaluating it who are negotiating your contract, they're just like, look at what you did against the Titans front. He's like, but my ankle was banged up. Don't matter. You had
Yeah.
37 yards on 11 carries. We're not paying for that.
Yeah, and the volume is starting to add up with him. And I was saying this for fantasy football purposes, but it also matters for business purposes too. When you go and look at the amount of times that Austin Eckler has been hit in the last 3 seasons, it's probably more than anyone in the entire NFL. And I bet you he has the most touches as well in the past 3 years. I'm just spitballing based on how much he gets the ball every single game, game in, game out. Teams are going to see that at 30 years old, and they're going to use that to negotiate against him and say, man, eventually, like, this isn't going to be able to continue. You're not going to be able to continue to work like this. It's physically impossible to be taking 300 touches season after season after season and remain healthy and not have it fall apart. And I was telling people for fantasy football purposes that, but it could come into play for business purposes as well. Like you're saying, Eckler may want 10 good games instead of 17 this year because of the contract situation, or 17, like I said, while battling through injuries. He's battled through quads. He's battled through like organ issues in the past and hamstrings and ankles
I
and
remember that
played
quad
through.
issue. They
Played
were
through.
talking about that being like a season ender, and then he was
Mhm.
back in like 4 weeks.
Yeah, and
Isn't
he
that
scored 3
the
touchdowns.
yeah? I was like, he's different. Like,
He's a
and you
machine.
see that. Like, even the way he played so amazing. We gave love to Josh Kelly, but like, we just take for granted that like he's going to be great at whatever
Yeah.
he does every time he touches it, and he's easily one of my favorite players, one of my favorite human beings. He's so positive, and like whatever decision is made, whether he plays or when he comes back or whatever, like I get it. Like, what are you gonna do? It's a brutal game, and that's kind of why I feel bad for Bosa right now. Like everything was going right, like great camp. He put on the added weight. I was just thinking like this is gonna be. It must be so frustrating to be amazing at something and your body betrays you. Like
Right.
I would be so depressed. Like I put in all of this, I work. He sacrifices so much. Body's in tip-top shape, and it just betrays him every time.
Every time. Yeah, it's very unfortunate with Bosa and the injuries he's dealt with it throughout his career. It's a roller coaster ride, man. And every time he has a stretch of healthy games, we see what he can do. And it's just like, man, if only we could get 3 straight years of healthy Bosa. Who knows what that stat line would even look like? It probably would look a lot like the
Love
Brewers.
it.
Anyways, let's talk about the Titans injury report here, Tony. They've got a list of players on here as well. A cornerback Christian Fulton, he's out. He's been dealing with a hamstring. And safety Amani Hooker, who usually plays next to Kevin Byard, he's out with a concussion. So he's already been deemed out of this game. DeAndre Hopkins is questionable with an ankle as well, but he did not practice today and did not practice the rest of the week. So it's not looking great that he is going to play. And then Peter Skoronsky, who didn't practice all week either, dealing with an illness, he's questionable. He might be someone that plays despite being sick. I don't know, but no practices for him this week either. Both teams are banged up, Tony. It's not like the Titans are coming off of a clean bill in the first week either.
Yeah, and the Monty Hooker one is to me is really big because the weakness of this defense, if there is one, I think the Titans defense is sensational. So if any Titans fans see this, please don't message me. This isn't a shot at you guys. But if you're going to attack one part of it and you think the team's going to have success, it's going to be the secondary. Like the Saints, in rewatching that game, Mike, like one of the things I noticed was like both of these teams should have won this game by 15 points somehow. Like both of them had opportunities to put up really big numbers, and there was just inconsistencies, drops, Carr operating a new system. They heated him up at the right time, and he just didn't realize what he had if he could have taken it. but I think he finished with like 305 passing yards in his first outing with a new team. So it's like, not a ton of familiarity in live game action with Michael Thomas and Olave, and my guy, Juwan Johnson, fantasy tight end breakout, had to wait after week 1. But
the breakout's coming.
Yeah, it's on the horizon. I mean, we only had to wait, 11 weeks last year for Cole Kmet? Hopefully hopefully it's sooner this year.
Right after you drop him, 20 points.
That is exactly what happened. He had 2 touchdowns. I dropped them in 3 leagues.
Exactly.
Yep.
Perfect. But yeah, the Titans secondary will be where I'm sure the Chargers offense is looking to attack, especially down our best running back. Let's just transition into our keys to victory here, Tony. Got the injury report wrapped up. What do you think is the Chargers' biggest key to victory for this game against Titans?
The biggest key to victory, I would say, is I don't know which one I want to go for this. Okay. Biggest key to the Chargers' victory is obviously it's stopping Derrick Henry, the run, right? Don't turn Chigakonkwo into a star this weekend, right? Because he's the one player that has he's got a different level of speed for that tight end position and has a real, he can get the ball and make plays, yards after the catch with broken tackles or just hitting a seam. I know that the focus has to be on the run, and I hope that's where it is. Because if for some reason it is not, I will not understand either of the first 2 weeks' game plans, whatever. And Staley's my boy. I defend this guy. And the one thing that was the hardest when I talked to Chargers fans this week, I could always go, well, we defend the pass really well. Do you know how many times I've used that in an argument and people will kind of be like, yeah, if you just get the run to match that, it'd be good. And I would always say, he defends the pass so well. I don't know what to say to the people who were texting me being like, what happened to your boy? Why? And I'm just like, I don't know. It'll get better. But I think that's the key to victory is don't let that one person that is dynamic in the passing game for them, which I think it's Chigakonkwo, because I don't think Treylon Burks is there yet. I think he'll get there, but I don't think he's there yet. Don't let him beat you.
Yeah, and that seems wild to say that the key to victory is to stop the underrated and unknown tight end. But really, this Tennessee offense does not have the same juice that the Miami offense has. And I was telling everybody that my key to victory is to let that motherfucker loose again. It's a common thing, and it's crazy because I saw it recently in a documentary. I think it was the one on the Florida Gators. I was saying every coach has all these plays, this whole play card, front and back, 100 plays written down, and there's one in the dire situation, and it always says, let the motherfucker loose. And that is your best player. Let Justin Herbert loose because they can't keep up. They can't keep up in a shootout. They're not going to score 40 points. They don't have the quarterback and the receiving core and the offensive line to put up that kind of fireworks, put up that kind of firepower. And I think the key to victory, and I said it last week too, it was Herbert, going toe-to-toe with the Mike McDaniel, Tua, Tyreek offense. I think that this year the Chargers cannot lose if they score 35 points. So let the motherfucker go. Let him go. Let him loose.
Yeah, well, they needed 37 on Sunday. So
yeah,
that's a tough statement to make today.
If they score 35 points, Tony, it's going to be like 4 Derrick Henry touchdowns. Can you imagine that shit?
Honestly, I can't that's the sad part is that I can see it. And because in this game last year, I thought this was one of, again, Staley's better coach games last year. And that Tennessee, it came down to that end of the game, great, kind of backyard football play to Mike Williams, throws his hand up on the sideline. And that game was, kind of in the balance. There was a lot of injuries again in that game, and they just coached their way through it. I thought they played the run okay, right? I don't remember exactly.
It was better than expected, that game, for sure.
Yeah, it was. I think it was good. It was a really sort of gutty win, 17-14 or something like that. In a game when you were catching them like this early in the season, and Derrick Henry didn't put in a 30 carry. He's not coming off of a bruising week. He actually got out-snapped by the rookie Tajay Spears. Yeah. So it's if somehow in their minds they were like, you know what? Let's not beat up Derrick Henry against a well-known great front that is going to commit 7 to 8 players on every play. And Demario Davis is still one hell of a football player. Like this guy goes and gets after it. He's so much fun to watch. I just find myself looking for him on every run play, and I'm like, there he comes, boom! He's smacking somebody. But for the Chargers go, I could see them saying, you know what? Last week you had 16 carries. You're getting 30 against the Chargers.
Oh yeah, guaranteed. Especially knowing that they're down Bosa, down Eric Kendricks. The Chargers front is going to get Derrick Henry probably 30 times in this game, no matter what the score is. I mean, unless we go up by like 20 points super early in the game, even if they're down 10, they're not going to abandon that. There's no way, because that's not their path to victory. Their path to victory is getting 22 going and getting him making some big plays to move them down the field and into field goal range at least. So, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how both teams manage these injuries to star players. DeAndre Hopkins could be out of this game. We're obviously going to be down Eckler, Joey Bosa, Eric Kendricks. Both teams missing a few star players. That will be interesting. All right, Tony. Bold prediction for a player. What do you think?
Prediction. With Eckler out, Spiller's going to get to play, right?
Okay.
And I don't see them putting in Elijah Dotson for a ton of success against Danico Autry and Jeffrey Simmons, and Arden Key Arden Key was a monster in that game. And now granted, he was playing against some kind of sketchy offensive line play for the Saints there, but he still looked incredible. The linebackers played really well too. I think that the one successful spot where Spiller can come in and sort of pick up where Eckler shines is in the passing game. If they can get 3 or 4 routes in this, like 3 or 4 balls out to this guy, I think Spiller can kind of have the big welcoming that us as Charger fans have all been waiting to see, right? There's been a ton of excitement. If you go on social media or you talk to any like fans in person, they're like, when's Isaiah Spiller going to get more touches? That never happened all year. Then he doesn't dress for week 1. If he's in this game, he needs to be like, do something where they go, okay, we should have you dressed every single week, no matter what, for this purpose. Like, and I think that he really can be effective in the pass game. Like, he can be split out as a wide receiver. You can design some screens to him and kind of let him get out there and do his work. So I'm going to call for Isaiah Spiller to have over 4 catches, 45 receiving yards, and a touchdown.
Okay. I like it. I've been wanting to see Spiller, man. The preseason action got me excited about his burst, about his explosion, about his jump cut game. Like, I like watching Isaiah Spiller play football even since college. I want to see him play some football, damn it. I didn't want to see it via injury to number 30, but since 30's injured, let's get 28 out there. Let's see something. I haven't seen 28 come out of our backfield since you know who. So it would be great to see it here on Isaiah Spiller's back instead. I have 2 bold predictions. My first bold prediction was going to be that QJ finds the end zone this week. Gets a little bit more action, makes that big play down the field that we wanted to see last week and that we saw them kind of maybe targeting a little bit last week. And then my other one was another rookie. Thule forces 2 turnovers via pressure to interception, via strip sack, or via a fumble on one of the running backs. I got Thule forcing 2 turnovers in this week's game as my bold prediction. Who knows? Maybe a little 3rd and 7 action. Gets a free run at the quarterback. He made a great play last week where he kind of just threw the blocker to the side and tackled the running back in the backfield. And maybe Ryan Tannehill doesn't see him coming. Chargers going the other way with it.
Yeah, I think we should rewatch that. I don't necessarily know that it was him destroying on it. It was good. It was a good play.
No need here. I was also thinking, like, how mad is Derwin this week? Kind of quiet game last week. I mean, he made some plays and he was all over the field and he made an impact because he's one of those players that when Tua comes to line of scrimmage, he's coached to find 3. So he obviously impacted the game, but not in the same way where we're used to him making like a flash, a wild play every week. And when he makes normal plays like swatting a pass down in front of a tight end, it doesn't seem like the same Derwin James, but I'm hoping that he makes a wild play this week. Yeah,
I think this is an opportunity for him to do it. I really like the more I just sit and think about it, I really thought like that was like a JT Woods game against Miami. Like was like, why are we seeing him more like having this over the top deep speed on some of these balls? Like that's kind of what I called for last week, was like, let this guy go and get it. I didn't shout out anybody from the defense, but whoever fills in for Eric Kendricks, we need you, because I don't even know who it's going to be. If it's not
Tom
Dayon,
Maminga.
yeah, it's going to be Amen or Neiman, likely, depending on what the down and distance is that's out there. And it's like,
We're praying for you, buddy.
Please just have the game of your life in that spot. I don't even. There's no bold call. There's nothing. Just the game of your life where we like. I want to be able to text Mike or David or my brother-in-law and just be like, "Can you believe how good this player is playing?" Like kind of the first time that I was like sitting there watching, I'm like, I think Kaiser White's gonna be a real good linebacker, right? Like, oh,
That's what we want.
Look what Drew Tranquil can do when he's healthy. You know what I'm saying? Like those linebackers that you aren't necessarily expecting them to shine as much as they do in certain games.
Well, Amen has the tools to do it. I don't know if it's going to be him that fills the role or not, but he has the skills to cover the ground necessary in that defense. I mean, we've seen it in the preseason multiple times. When he shoots gaps, he shoots gaps. We don't get this like what Kenneth Murray does, where he's tiptoeing around the line of scrimmage trying to find the hole to blitz. And there was a couple of blitzes from Kenneth Murray in week 1, and I'm not trying to bag on 9, but they're just pathetic. I mean, they're really bad. They're poor effort. He seems like he's almost intentionally getting blocked, but every time I've seen Amen get put to the same use, he seems to come through in the preseason. That's the big key. It's a big difference.
I think he also did a little bit of the green dot, right? Because wasn't that why they had Henley playing with the third team in the preseason games? Was because he was out there and he got
Derwin.
So
it's probably Derwin with the helmet, probably.
Yeah, whoever it is, I just hope that they have the game of their life, and we're talking about it. About a couple tackles for loss. Yeah. Go out there.
You know what's crazy, Tony, is everyone always says that like playing with the green dot or playing as the play caller kind of hurts players' ability to focus on their position and their role. But I think in like a situation with like Derwin James, who's as passionate about football as he is, I think it almost can lock you in more, like lock him in more. Like he knows the mission of the entire defense. That's a lot on a guy's shoulders. Like, for example, when I traveled and played football overseas, I went from just being like a backup corner that was just like on the team in high school to now I was the team captain on defense. And I didn't have a green dot because we didn't have that kind of technology, but I was calling the plays. I don't know. I just felt like I was more connected to each play, to the game. I was more locked in. I was more focused. Maybe it's just me, but we'll see if there's any difference in Derwin James' play this week to last week, because last year he had the green dot the whole season. And they were saying that him getting free to that duty is going to allow him to play more free and with less thoughts or whatever it is. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. I just want to see him be more like Troy Polamalu.
Yeah,
like
he has that talent.
I love that, where it's like, I think it was Jay. I was listening to an interview with Jay Cutler, and he said I had Troy Polamalu in a game inside the A gap at the snap, and he was really the deep safety on a play. And when I turned around to run the play action, I turned around and I didn't see 43 coming at me. And I threw the ball, and then he was right there for a pass breakup, 25 yards downfield, and he was like, "Wait, how's that? How's that going to work?" I think it was
how's that even
telling a Troy Polamalu story, and it's like, oh yeah, you forget how when you're that special, it's like you just get to do crazy things that other people don't do, and I think that's what we like most about Derwin. Is like he has that ability to do those things where you're just like, man, I've never been that good at anything I've ever done, as good as this man is at just dominating on a football field.
Well, that is literally defense that is only expected to be successful like at the very low high school levels, like where you have one star player on the team and he's playing middle linebacker and he can fucking cover the middle of the field too. There ain't no defenses in the NFL drawn up where middle linebackers or people are lining up at linebacker at the line of scrimmage and dropping into a deep third. That's ridiculous. There's only special talents that can move like that and have the DNA to make plays on a football while also getting back in your zone at full speed. And Derwin's one of them. So I would like to see it as well. Tony, what's your score prediction for this one?
Okay. I still think there's going to be points scored for both sides. Like last week, I think my score was 34-10. I did not know where those other 26 points were going to come. They came from Tyreek Hill being open. Okay. 30-28 is kind of what I've settled on, right? But I wonder, I'm gonna stick with it. I'm gonna stick with a 30-28 Chargers because I think there's gonna be opportunity for them to get Mike Williams involved, and like you said, Q and Darius Davis should be able to get deep and rip on a couple of these plays, especially if you can get out and roll the pocket, and the offensive line can play, with similar success like they had last week. So I'm going to go with a bit of a high score.
Yeah, I really feel like Q is our man beater, man. He is the guy to send down the field in one-on-one matchups, and he could probably beat any of these corners that they're going to throw at him this weekend. So hopefully you're right, and we can get these rookies loose. Yeah, I was thinking similar, Tony. I was thinking 35-24. I'm obviously a little bit more bullish on the Chargers' ability to get ahead and keep them from pounding the rock with Derrick Henry all game. Because if they do, it's going to be a much lower scoring game. Obviously, it's going to be a closer, 20 for each team probably. So we'll see how it goes. I'm going 35-21. Did I say 24?
You said 35-24. I like it. I was 30-20, like 30-23 was like the score that I originally had, and I was just like, I don't know, 27-28 points for the Titans. Because the thing is like what they have that was special and that they used for the Dolphins was Tyreek Hill. Well, the Titans have a special player that they could use.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work where they can't stop him, that's kind of a pattern that's been happening. So it's like, and I could see a situation in this game where this is one of those games where we're texting each other, what is happening, what the F is happening. It's 14-3 in the second quarter. Titans are up. And it's like, what's going on? And we're like spiraling out of control because we're fans and we have no control over any of this except to sacrifice our emotions on Sunday afternoon. And we're like, what's going on? And then it's like, all right, they settle in, and Herbert and Moore and Mike Dubb and Keenan and Gerald Everett. And by the way, we didn't talk about this at all. Gerald Everett was out there throwing some blocks. Parham, like the tight ends, I thought they had a real nice day helping out in the run game, which was fantastic to see. So like, we can talk about that when we talk about the run. I just think it could be that kind of a game where Chargers fans, please keep your faith. Even if it starts off a little bit rocky at the beginning of this one, they're going to figure out a way to win this football game. I really believe it.
Stick with us, Bull fam. Chargers going to 1-1 this week. Come on. Let's get it. Appreciate everyone tuning into this week's episode of Nuts and Bolts. You guys are tuned into the replay or you're watching live, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications if you're a Chargers fan. We'll be back next week, Friday night, 4 p.m., same time. That's the goal each week. If you guys see us change the time, it'll be whatever time the broadcast is set up for. So just if you see that time different, it is right. We are planning these out, and we set a different time that week. All right, appreciate everyone tuning in. Again, bolt up. Anything else, Tony, before we go?
Isaiah Spiller. Big
Isaiah Spiller.
Big
Isaiah Spiller and Thule. Here we go. This is the week.